Today's podcast is brought to you by Zipcar.com. Earn $25 of free driving credit at joinzipcar.com/Filmwax Radio. Hello, everybody. This is episode number 388. The name of the podcast, naturally, you know by now since you turned it on. It's Filmwax Radio, and my name is Adam Shartoff, and I founded the show in September. It was in 2011. So we are now firmly going into our 6th year of the podcast. Of course, if you've been following a long time, you may know that this started as internet radio, and then over time just got repurposed as a podcast, and then ultimately only as a podcast, and been doing it now for all these years, and it's been a journey, and I really wouldn't know where to begin to describe how it's changed my life and for the better, and how it's allowed me this amazing opportunity, to connect with so many people, and I got to tell you, it's just keeps going and going. Today, for instance, I got up and I took the F train. I switched over to this A train and then hopped on the E. All this took about 15, 20 minutes, you must realize. I got off in Soho and walked over to Film Forum. Well, actually, I walked over to their offices on King Street and met with Bruce Goldstein, who has been with Film Forum for many decades. He has been programming or curating the repertory films at Film Forum for many decades, and still, he is a legend, and he's a seminal guy in the New York film. I mean, actually in all of cinema, an exhibition of cinema. He's still the man. And so it was quite a treat. And he has so much fun. We had a great time. So that will be coming up soon. We'll play that for you. And when I was going upstairs to say hi to other people in the office that I know, I ran into Karen Cooper, who is the founder, essentially one of the founders, if not the founder, and have been running the Film Forum since its beginning. It's amazing. And she agreed to do the podcast. So I hope to talk to her soon. If you're not from New York City, you may think, well, this isn't going to necessarily be the show for me, but I guarantee you, if you love films, you'll want to listen to these conversations. Yes, Film Forum is located in New York City, but both of these people have a commitment to film and cinema. They speak on a level that will, I think, be interesting and engaging to just about anybody who loves film. So do keep tuning in. Today's show, again, episode number 388, is also got some great conversations. First of all, if you are a lover of international cinema, you will know who Asghar Farhadi is. If you've seen About Ellie or Separation or The Past, that's the name of the film, you know who Asghar Farhadi is. A new film is called The Salesman, and it's coming out shortly here in New York anyway. The Salesman is being distributed by Amazon Studios and Cohen Media Group, and it essentially tells the story about a couple who have to leave their home, their apartment, and find a new place after the building that they were living in becomes damaged. And they are living in Tehran, and they find a place and they relocate, except that they're still, the belongings of the previous tenant are still there, and as they try to move to get this person to come and get her things, something happens which involves the wife being by herself there, memorably played by, pardon me if I butcher these names, but the wife is played by Taraneh Ali-Dosti. Again, I may have that name pronounced wrong. And the husband, who is a theater director, and they're putting on a local staging of Death of a Salesman. And this is played by Shaib Hosseini. And I'm pretty sure I butchered that name, but so forgive me. But anyway, he is enormous. What an enormously talented pair of actors these two are. Anyway, so she is alone in the apartment and lets somebody in. Unbeknownst to her, it isn't her. She thinks it's her husband. It's not, and then it's sort of what happens at that point and after, and how things unfold. And I don't want to give away too much because even though it's really a character drama, it's really about these people that populate the film. It's kind of constructed almost like a mystery, and so you should therefore have enjoy that. I do know that Farhadi is now moved on to a new project, which is going to star Penelope Cruz and Javier Bardem. He's shooting in Spain, so I'm really glad to have gotten Asghar when I did, because who knows at this stage when he may be available again to a little pipsqueak operation like mine, but. I should say he is joined by an interpreter, so while you will hear Asghar answering questions, you will also he will be answering them in Farsi, and then they will be translated by his interpreter. So I'll make those introductions on the show. The film opens in New York and in Los Angeles on January 27th, and then will open in all over the place in the weeks following. So that will be the first segment of the podcast, and we'll get to that in just a moment. And then that will be followed. And then after that, we're going to talk to a friend of the podcast, Michael Rossato-Bennett. Michael was on a couple of years back with his documentary Alive Inside, where about a documentary about introducing music to people who have become largely dormant through living with Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia, and how they respond to music and how it opens them up again and wakens them up. And now he's back. He has a new project that he wants to get started, and he needs everybody's help. And so he has a Kickstarter going on, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as I introduce Michael's segment. First, though, here coming up before even Asghar is a friend, Jesse Orrit, who has a new documentary. I just saw it at Doc NYC a couple of months ago, and it's now going to be at Slam Dance next week in Park City. And I just wanted to introduce her to Jesse and her delightful film. It's called her new documentary. Her documentary is called Supergirl. It's her first feature, and it's just cleaning up. It's doing really great. The response to it is fantastic, and it's about this young Orthodox Jewish girl who's a power lifter. So if that's not doesn't grab you in, I'm not sure what will. But we're going to talk to Jesse real quick. And then for a very brief conversation, and then we'll go into a conversation with Asghar. So here, let's get going right now with my conversation with Ms. Jesse Orrit. Well, how are you doing? You're in L.A. right now?
Yeah. I've been out here for a little bit. Let's just hang out with some friends and family, and then figured I'd stay on the West Coast until I head off to Park City for this film's playing at Slam Dance. Yeah. So here till next Friday.
Mm-hmm. That'll be the what do they call it? I guess the West. I don't even know. It's the Utah premiere.
Yeah. I guess technically it's the Southwest premiere, something like that. But or the whole West Coast premiere.
West of the Mississippi premiere.
Yeah. Will you be out there?
No, I start a new job.
Okay.
Yeah. But we're going to discuss for a few minutes your documentary feature called Supergirl, which I saw at Doc NYC and really enjoyed. It's about a girl in an Orthodox Jewish family named Naomi who is a power lifter, right?
Yes.
She's like 9 years old, and she's a power lifter. Yes. It's amazing because not only because she's 9 and she's a little thing, and she's not really little, but she isn't, in a family where traditionally you wouldn't think that the parents would be behind such a pursuit.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not conventional for people in that community. But her dad actually is a lifter too, and had been since college. So she kind of grew up with him lifting in their basement, and he asked her if she wanted to try it, and it kind of just took off from there.
Yeah, because she has more than brawn. It's really about, at least what I learned from watching Supergirl, is that more than brawn, it's really about willpower and self-confidence on a level, not letting intimidation and fear get in the way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you look at her, I mean, she looks like a normal girl. Like her, arms and legs are not necessarily like huge and muscular, but then she's able to lift almost 3 times her body weight. And I think at one point during filming, she even said that she thinks it's like 70% mental and just 30% physical. And you really have to be in this, mental zone. They call it psyching up in the sport, but she almost like becomes this other person when she gets psyched up. And if she's not in that zone and doesn't have that mental focus, she's really not able to perform as well. And I think we found that when we went to competitions, we saw that with other lifters as well. They kind of go into this other mind state where they're able to like lift these incredible amounts. It's pretty amazing.
So now, are you a lifter? What's your? How did you come across or come to meet Naomi and her family, or are you Orthodox Jewish, or what's your way in?
Yeah, no, I am not a power lifter, weightlifter by any means, and I'm not Orthodox Jewish. I am, a secular Jew. Was raised somewhat culturally Jewish, but no, I didn't connect with them through either of those communities. I just read an article about Naomi.
I have her name wrong. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, it's spelled Naomi, but she pronounces it Naomi.
Or Nami?
But
okay.
yeah, she had been in the press a bit after setting a world record at 9 years old and then again at 10 years old. So I came across an article. They had picked up some traction. She was on some national TV shows. So I was just really fascinated by her story. And mostly because to me, there's sort of this contradiction in that she was part of this modern Orthodox Jewish community, and then also, which in Jewish law, it's very kind of has very traditional gender roles typically, and is known for being somewhat conservative. And then she was participating in this male-dominated sport. So I just reached out to the family. They live in northern New Jersey, and I'm based in Brooklyn. So went out there with my cinematographer Carmen Delaney, and we met them and watched her lift, and just started filming from there. And that was now coming up on 4 years ago, which is crazy.
Yeah, so she's a young lady now.
Yeah.
Which we do see actually one of the more exciting aspects of the film is that we do see her over the course of time really shoot up, because after all, we're getting her in puberty, so it's not so unusual that we may see her age throughout the documentary, even though it doesn't necessarily take place over that long a space of time. And I also want to mention, even though you just mentioned you're Brooklyn-based, as am I, that right now, as you already mentioned, we're trying to let people know who might be heading to Slam Dance that Supergirl will be screening there. So hence our Skype.
Yes.
And I see also you made a film not long ago called The Birdman. I wanted to say that was a great film, and Michael Keaton was terrific in it. So congratulations on that, and your Oscar, of course.
Right. Well, my film came out before Birdman, so I was the original.
And I also note you are, according to your bio, you are one of the film fatales.
Yes, yeah. Been involved with that group for a little bit, which has been great. I'm sure you've probably had a lot of filmmakers on your podcast in the past, but
yeah. And Leah, who founded it, she and I, she's been on the podcast, and we did a TV spot with a couple of the film fatales, and so I moderated something with her in one of the film fatales at a screening. So yeah, it's an ongoing thing. They were just in the news in the film news because they got some bit of money for over a period of time now. So it looks like it's only going to be expanding, that organization.
Yeah, I know they're coming up on a big fundraising drive as well. But it's been a great organization and way to meet other like-minded women filmmakers and have that support group has been great, especially because this is my first feature film. So,
well, congratulations for that, because it really is a really solid film and Nami's a great subject, and I like it defies expectations, and it defies just stereotypes in every way. So it's if nothing else, that's a really great reason to make a film like that.
Yeah, thank you.
So it's going to be at Slamdance. I don't know how much more you can mention after that, but maybe, do you know if it's going to be back in New York? I know, was it Doc NYC? I think you had a couple of sold-out screenings. Or is it going to be coming back to New York anytime, or you're working on that whole plan?
We don't have any New York screenings scheduled yet. Yeah, it's playing at Slamdance coming up in Park City, and then it's going to Big Sky Documentary Film Festival in Missoula, Montana. Yeah. I don't know how many podcast listeners you have out there, but that's in
many who have heard of that state.
That's in February, and also it's going to be in Palm Beach, Florida, at the Jewish Film Festival there, the end of January and early February. After that, we have some other festivals confirmed, and we're working on the wider distribution for the film, which we have secured at this point, but hasn't been totally finalized and announced yet. But that is something that we're really excited about, knowing that the film will have a life after festivals, and people will be able to see it all over, which is, kind of all I could hope for. So, we don't have anything on the East Coast yet, but we'll be hopefully be able to announce stuff soon. And, we post stuff on our social media and website and all that.
Well, you'll let me know, of course, and we'll keep people abreast of possible theatricals and broadcasts, because I'm sure it'll get the best of everything. Nami's a great role model, not just for girls, but for, I think just for everybody. It's mind over matter. Can use that message a lot these days. So
Yeah, absolutely. She's sort of an unlikely hero in that sense. And I think in this day and age, right now, going into 2017, I think we really need strong female role models who are just breaking down barriers and defying those stereotypes. So I hope, she can be that inspiration for people. And it was interesting because Doc NYC, happened right after the election. And it was sort of a dark moment for a lot of people, and people came up to me after the screening and said, I've been having such a rough week. I've been in such a dark place, and your film and Naami's spirit gave me hope for humanity and for the future of our country. And that was the most meaningful thing anyone could ever say. And it was just really powerful to know that this film is having that effect on people, and I think it's something we really need in this moment in time in history.
That could be a heavier weight to bear than the weights, but than barbells or whatever.
Very true. Very true.
Jesse Orrit is the filmmaker of a new documentary called Supergirl. We'll keep, like I say, if you're heading to Park City, I'll post the dates. So unless you happen to know them off the top of your head, but I'll post the dates and mention it in my intro.
Awesome. Yeah, I do know that it's playing on Saturday the 21st at 10:30 a.m. and then again on Tuesday the 24th at 9:30 p.m. Both are at the Treasure Mountain Inn at the top of Main Street, where Slamdance headquarters are.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that we hooked up and connected, and look forward to
awesome. That would be great.
Hearing all about Slamdance when you get back.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right.
And we'll be in touch.
Have a lot of fun at Slamdance.
Yeah, thanks. Take care.
You too. If you're headed to Park City and you're going to check out Slamdance, do check out Supergirl, but I will keep you abreast of when the film comes back to the New York area or how you can see it. And hopefully we'll have Jesse back on again. Okay, so up now is Asghar Farhadi again. The film is called The Salesman. It will be opening in New York and Los Angeles again on January 27th, thanks to our friends over at Amazon Studios and the Cohen Media Group. And will be after rolling out around the country in the weeks after. So without any further delay, here is my conversation with Iranian filmmaker Asghar Farhadi. See, perfect. You can take a break. Farzad, I'm speaking with Asghar Farhadi, who came in for just last night, late last night?
Yeah, last night I arrived here.
Yeah. And you're translator as opposed to interpreter, right?
No, I think I'm the translator. I really try to go word by word.
Yes, and that is Farzad. So thank you. Welcome.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm so excited that I had the opportunity to talk to you, having seen your last 3 films. Possibly, was it about Ellie? Or is it?
Yes, about Ellie, a separation, and the past.
The past.
Maybe.
Well, I for sure saw those, yeah. I wasn't sure if I saw about Ellie, but it's something to look forward to anyway. So that's the good. And now The Salesman, which I saw, I loved it. When you travel, do you see theater much? Do you go to theater?
بعضی موقع که توی فستیوال ها میرم سعی میکنم که فیلم ها رو ببینم و یه موقعی هم سعی میکنم تئاتر رو ببینم، ولی وقتی برای پروموشن سفر میکنم کمتر پیش میاد.
Sometimes when I go to festivals, I try to watch a couple of the movies, or if there is a play that I can watch, I go and watch them. But when I go for promotion, there is not so much time to go and see anything.
Right, because I know you have a long history with theater, and that it also still impacts the way he writes his films and stages his films. And even in The Salesman, of course, there's a subplot going on about the staging of Death of a Salesman. A man is not a piece of fruit. So I'm wondering if theater is so important, if you allow yourself time to indulge in theater.
توی ایران خیلی زیاد تئاتر میبینم، تئاترایی که معمولا خوبه و به گوشم میرسه میرم میبینم، و تئاتر از اون چیزایی که واقعا باید به زبان خودت ببینی. وقتی یه تئاتر میبینی که زبانش رو نمیشناسی خیلی سخت ارتباط برقرار کردن.
Yeah, in Iran I try to go and watch lots of theater. I usually go and watch lots of theater, but I think theater is something that you have to watch in your own language. If you don't understand the language, it gets hard to understand and get the emotions.
جدیدن تئاترایی هست که در واقع زیرنویس داره یا بالای استیج در واقع می‌نویسن، ولی معمولا یک دو تجربه که داشتم نتونستم ارتباط برقرار کنم.
These days there are some plays and some theater performances that they have subtitles that is on a stage or upstairs.
Right.
But
Super titles, yeah.
Yeah, I watched them, but I didn't get the same experience. So,
yeah, I had that experience. I went to England and I saw the theater there. I didn't understand anything that was going on.
مثلا اگه تئاتری باشه که دیالوگ زیاد داشته باشه، یه جایی احساس می‌کنی که در واقع دیگه تو اون دنیا نیستی، داری به یه چیزای دیگه فکر می‌کنی.
Especially if there is a theater that has lots of dialogue, then you feel like you're not in that world anymore and you're just thinking about other stuff.
Right. I understand. I think of Death of a Salesman, for instance, as maybe as American as theater gets. It's just the themes and I wonder, I know that it's performed all over. There was a famous book about a Death of a Salesman in China. Do you remember that? That's a well-known book. Okay, there's a book. Maybe if it's translated to Farsi, you may want to pick it up. But there was a very well-known book about it. The play has probably been performed in so many countries. And I'm wondering if you saw it when you were younger, how old you were, and did it translate, speaking of translation, did the themes resonate with you?
نمایشنامه مرگ یک فروشنده آرتور میلر خیلی توی ایران اجرای زیادی داشته باشه و ترجمه‌های زیادی هم شده.
And the play Death of a Salesman is very famous in Iran, and there are lots of translations of it in Iran. There are lots of performances of them in Iran as well.
من آخرین باری که این نمایشنامه رو روی صحنه دیدم 1 سال پیش بود و اولین باری که خوندم فکر کنم 20 سالم بود یا 19 سالم بود توی دانشگاه.
The last time that I saw a performance of the play was last year, and I think the first time that I read the play I was like 19 or 20 when I was a student in university.
خیلی نمایشنامه شناخته شده ایه و به نظرم هر بار که اجرا میشه از یه زاویه باش برخورد میکنن.
It's a very well-known play, and I think every time with each performance they look at it from a different new perspective.
و هر چند سال یه بارم خوشبختانه ترجمه جدیدی ازش بیرون میاد.
And every couple of years a new translation of it comes out.
Is it changing? Evolves?
میگه که عوض میشه تو این ترجمه ها؟
نه عوض نمیشه، ولی سعی میکنن که با دقت بیشتری در واقع اون رو ترجمه کنن.
It doesn't change, but they try to translate it more precise.
Is that right? Do you feel like those themes are American themes or they're universal?
من به نظرم مرگ یک فروشنده الان دیگه مال همه جاست و اینقدر در اون تمی که توش هست یونیورساله که نمیشه گفت که این امریکاییه.
I think that Death of a Salesman now it's universal. It's the theme that it has is so universal these days that you can't call it American anymore.
میفهمم که اون راجع به در واقع این نگاه سیاسی داره به اون دوره از امریکا و راجع به سرمایه‌داری با توجه به تفکر چپی که آرتور میلر داشته، ولی خیلی زاویه‌های دیگه هم داشته که این یونیورساله.
I understand that it has the Arthur Miller has this political view about capitalism, and because he was like a left-wing kind of person, but it's not. It has other themes in the play that is very universal.
این نگرانی که آرتور میلر داره راجع به تغییراتی که به سرعت داره توی نیویورک اتفاق میفته امروز در خیلی از جای دیگه قابل لمسه.
Well, it seems that Arthur Miller is very worried about the changes that happening with a fast pace in the New York of that time. I think these changes are happening in many places in the world.
That's true.
راجع به تم اصلی که وجود داره این تحقیری که پسر ویلی لومن نسبت به اون داره، تحقیری که اجتماع نسبت به اون داره و اون آخر بار به سمت خودکشی میبره. این تمیه که همه هیچ موقع کهنه نمیشه.
The humiliation theme that is everywhere in the play, the beef humiliate his father, the society humiliate Willy Loman, everyone, and pushes him toward committing suicide is a theme that it's never going to get old.
Sadly, that's true. Remind me of the names of some of the characters because I don't have the notes in front of me.
Ahmad.
But Ahmad is the husband, and the director, theater director, and teacher, and then of course, this is tricky. I don't want to give away the character, so I'm not going to. But I'm wondering if Willy Loman, if there is a direct connection between Ahmad so much because maybe he feels helpless and humiliated, or if another character who we discover later in the film who has caused a lot of emotional upheaval for Ahmad, if he is closer to that Willy Loman character, or if they both are. I assume there must be some deep connections, otherwise you could have played Music Man or Pajama Game.
برای من در واقع ارتباط مرگ یک فروشنده با داستان این کاراکترها از چند زاویه است.
For me, the relationship between Death of a Salesman and the story of this character is from a couple of different aspects.
I see.
همیشه با خودم فکر می‌کردم که یه هنرپیشه تئاتر داره نقش یه فروشنده‌ای به اسم ویلی لومن رو بازی میکنه و هر شب روی استیج سعی داره که این نقش رو یه جوری بازی کنه که مردم اون رو درک کنن و باهاش همدردی کنن. حالا در زندگی واقعی خودش با یه ویلی لومن ایرانی با همون سن و سال روبرو میشه و دچار پارادوکس میشه که چه برخوردی با اون بکنه.
I always thought that there is an actor who goes on a stage every night and acts as a Willy Loman and tries to make the audience understand and have empathy toward the character. And now in his own life, he sees a Iranian version of Willy Loman in front of him and doesn't know how to interact with the person.
این پارادوکس رو من دوست داشتم که بازیگری که میتونه خودش رو جای یه آدم دیگه همیشه بذاره رو استیج در زندگی واقعی نمیتونه خودش رو جای یه آدم که مقابلش بذاره.
I always like this paradox that an actor who tries to put himself in the shoes of another character in his real life cannot put himself in the shoes of the real person in front of him.
شاید به این دلیله که نقش این مرد هنرپیشه است، چون بازیگرها این توانایی رو دارن که خودشون رو جای یه آدم دیگه بذارن.
Maybe that's why that the job of my main character is being an actor, because they have this ability to put themselves in the shoe of another character.
ولی می‌بینیم که آخر بار اماد نمیتونه خودش رو جای اون پیرمرد بذاره.
But we see that at the end Ahmad cannot put himself in the shoes of that old man at the end.
That old man, right. I was wondering if we wanted to even say, I didn't know how protective you are of who that character turns out to be, because the structure of the salesman is a mystery, a suspense film, right? So we don't necessarily want to give away the villain, because in some loose ways the film uses these structures of a suspense movie, but it essentially seems like a series of just human moments that accidentally get involved in a mystery, you know.
Yeah.
So maybe I don't include that part about the old man. I don't. Does it matter?
چیزی که برام جالب بود این که اون پیرمردی که
متوجه میگه که من نمیخوام لو بدم آخر فیلم مثلا اگه با شما رفت داره ولی میخوام راجع اون نگم.
چیزی که در واقع وجود داره و سربسته میتونم اشاره کنم اینه که یه اتفاقی میفته و مثل یه تئاتر ما مدام دورمون اتفاق میچرخیم هی لایه‌های از این اتفاق رو برمی‌داریم.
The only thing that I can say about the story without giving away a lot is about an incident happens and we go around that incident constantly and we show the different layers of what happened and what that incident is.
توی تئاتر معمولا این اتفاق میفته، یعنی یه اتفاق مرکزی وجود داره و مدام در طول نمایشنامه اون آدم‌ها راجع به اون اتفاق مرکزی هی لایه برداری میکنن.
It's in theater it happens a lot that there is a core incident happening and all the characters talks about it over and over and they peel out the different layers of the incident.
Yeah, I guess in theater often people are talking, but they are trying to communicate something completely different. Language often gets in the way, you know. You created this world of characters in certainly the last 3 or 4 films. They're like actors in a play in a sense, right? Is some of it improvised or?
همه دیالوگ ها نوشته شده توی فیلمنامه.
Yeah, I wrote all the lines in the film. All the lines are written.
و سر صحنه همونها در واقع با تغییرات جزئی بازیگرا همونها رو میگن.
And on the set the actors say the exact line with just a little bit change, small changes.
ولی تلاشی که اونها میکنن و منم در واقع سعی میکنم که این اتفاق بیفته اینه که به نظر نیاد که اینو نوشته شده.
But I really try on the set that the audience who watch it don't feel like these are written lines.
باید به نظر بیاد که این زندگی و این دیالوگا رو دارن بداهه میگن.
They have to feel, the audience should feel that this is like real life and the actors are actually improvising.
Like a documentary in a sense.
به نوعی در واقع میشه گفت که اینا یه درام هایی هستن که مستندگونه ساخته شدن.
In a way you can call them, these are like dramas that been made in a documentary style.
And they lack theatricality. Right?
Yeah.
Your films have really connected with audiences all around the world, and you won an Oscar. You won many awards for Separation. The Oscar, isn't it? It's another level. It just sort of creates a certain amount of momentum. Is it a struggle to still create the stories and the kinds of films you want to make? Is it getting harder?
به هر حال اون تأثیر گذاشتون در واقع گرفتن اون جایزه روی همه چیز، مخصوصا رابطه من رو با تماشاگرها عمیق‌تر کرد و حالا اونها با دقت بیشتری فیلم‌های منو می‌بینن.
Of course that prize had an effect on many things around me and it made the audience really give the depth to the relationship between me and the audience and they're watching my films now way more carefully.
Right.
این با خودش یه مسئولیتی آورد که از اون جنبه‌ای که در واقع من رو عوض نکنه خیلی مراقب بودم که من یه فیلمساز دیگه‌ای نشم بعد از این جایزه. مثلا کردم همون جوری فیلم بسازم و بنویسم که پیش از این می‌نوشتم، ولی میدونم که هر فیلمی که بسازم حالا با دقت بیشتری دیده میشه و این مسئولیت در واقع کمک هم داره میکنه.
Well, it gives this prize of course gives you some kind of responsibility. I really tried in the aspect of filmmaking that this prize doesn't change me and I still do whatever I think that is correct and I was doing it right the series the way that I was written. But of course people now watching my films with way more cautious, with more precisely and it brings a more responsibility with it.
به نظرم فیلمسازی مسابقه نیست که آدم رقابت کنه با دیگران و با خودش.
I feel like filmmaking is not a competition that you have to be in competition with other people or even yourself.
اگه فیلمساز بخواد تلاش کنه که هر دفعه در رکورد خودش رو بزنه مطمئن باشین که زمین میخوره.
If the filmmaker want to just pass his own record all the time, I believe me, he's gonna drop.
Yeah. Right. Unless you're Steven Spielberg or somebody, I don't know. But it makes it certainly easier to finance a film, having that award on your mantle.
قطعا یعنی از طرف تهیه کننده ها خب راحت تر الان تهیه کننده ها در واقع میان و برای ساختن فیلم و پول در واقع تهیه پول برای ساختن فیلم کارم خیلی راحت تر شده. هرچند فیلم هایی که من میسازم فیلم های گرونی نیستن و همیشه در واقع چون تو باکس آفیس هم توی کشور خودم لااقل موفق بودن این مشکل رو نداشتم.
Yes, it makes it easier to get funding. Is it working?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's getting easier to get the funding and everything, of course, these days for me. But I don't make very expensive films.
Right, no,
so,
that's true. No CG.
Yeah.
No CG yet.
Yeah, so I don't make the expensive films, so it's easier for me to do it.
و چون این فیلم ها توی باکس آفیس هم در واقع موفق بودن توی ایران همیشه حتی قبل از اسکار هم در واقع راحت بودم تو تهیه پول.
Yeah, and because they were very successful in the box office as everywhere in Iran, it's always like people were like eager to come and make more of this with me.
But you are shooting, or you had a film that you're shooting in Europe, in Spain maybe?
اون فیلمی که توی فرانسه ساختم در واقع فیلم گذشته بود و بعد یه فیلم دیگه هم قراره که برم توی اسپانیا بسازم. اونها یکم گرون‌تره.
The last film that I made in Europe was The Past.
Right.
And now in the future I'm about to make a film in Spain. These two movies were a little bit more expensive.
Right. And but you feel compelled to work in Iran? Do you feel that like compelled to work in Iran and to work with the film with the Iranian crew and
وقتی که توی کشور خودم و با زبون و فرهنگ خودم کار میکنم در واقع راحت ترم چون همه چیز رو سریعتر همه درک میکنیم ولی برام خارج از زبون خودم کار کردن و خارج از فرهنگ خودم کار کردن یه تجربه است و گاهی خودم تصمیم میگیرم داستانی که به سراغم میاد داستانی که بیرون از کشورم رخ میده و باید برم دنبال اون.
Working in my own language, of course, and my culture, it's easier in a way that people understand things faster and makes everything goes more smooth. But making a movie in another language is a very interesting challenge, and I like to do it.
Farzad, are you going to be working with him on the film, or maybe you don't speak Spanish? So
I don't speak Spanish.
But they speak English in Spain. Well, many people. So it's the common language.
Yeah.
Did I interrupt you?
برای فیلم بعدیم در واقع زبان اسپانیاییه ولی ترجمه میشه به انگلیسی و فارسی و همونجور که فیلم گذشته رو کار کردم در واقع سعی می‌کنم به ارتباط برقرار کنم.
My next movie is going to be in the Spanish language, but of course it's going to be translated in both Farsi and English. And that's like The Past. That's the way that we did it, and we want everyone to be able to watch it.
Asghar, how long are you in the United States on this visit?
من هفته پیش اومدم و 2-3 روز دیگه برمیگردم میرم اسپانیا.
Yeah, I came over last week and then I'm going to be here for 1 or 2 days and then I'm going to Spain.
Oh, okay. Are you to shoot or you're on the production or just visiting maybe locations?
نه میرم اونجا که با نویسنده‌ای که همکارم هستن با هم دیگه در واقع گفتگو کنیم رو فیلمنامه.
Pre-production? No, I'm wondering if he's like locations or auditioning.
Not now. He's going there to.
Can I come along? No. I would like to watch.
No, it's he's going there to start working with a Spanish writer who's able to talk about the story and like see what's going on.
That makes sense. To make it feel like it's a real Spanish setting, etc., and that you get the tone just right. Correct? Yeah. But do you get a chance to see any films while you're in the United States or while you're here? Again, I know there's a language issue. But.
اینجا فرصت نکردم و آخرین چیزی که دیدم 2 قسمت از یه سریال بود که دیروز دیدم The Night Of.
Didn't get a chance to watch anything.
Did he mention The Night Of?
Yes.
The HBO show?
Yes, that was the last thing he watched yesterday.
Oh, John Turturro was on the show. John Turturro. You know, who had the eczema, the foot scratching, the bad. John Turturro, the actor, the star.
He was there?
No, he was on my show. This
really?
This thing, yeah. He talked.
The lawyer, right?
Yes.
Yes.
بهش بگو که بازیش درجه یکه.
Tell him that his acting is fantastic.
I know. He is a great actor. He lives in my neighborhood too, in Brooklyn.
خیلی هنرپیشه. من امروز داشتم راجع به هنر بازی اون صحبت می‌کردم با فرزاد و به نظرم خیلی بازی درجه یکی داره.
I was talking about his acting today with me.
Oh.
He was talking and he said I think he's a really fantastic top-notch actor.
He is. He's a great actor. He's very I did also a screening with him of one of his earlier films that he directed, a musical with James Gandolfini, who I saw a picture remember The Sopranos TV show. He did this musical. John Turturro directed it, and we showed it at a school nearby. And then I did a Q&A with him. It was a big treat because he's so.
Is he coming from theater?
He has done theater, but I don't think he does much. I don't think he does a lot of theater. He's really, I believe he's done some, but I'm probably guessing too much. I don't want to. My last question, I think, is so when you're here, are there people, friends that you must see, and people, because there's a community of people here I know in the film industry who really love Iranian films in particular. And so I'm wondering if that's part of your visit, if you have time, and do you catch up with anybody in New York?
توی لس آنجلس بیشتر در واقع باشون در ارتباطم و توی نیویورک هم بعضیشون، ولی بیشتر توی لس آنجلس اهل سینما رو که سینما ایران میشناسن باشون ملاقات دارم، میبینمشون.
Mostly I meet them in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I know some of them here in New York, of course, but usually I see most of them in the people who like Iran cinema. I meet them in Los Angeles.
I see. Very good. Well, next time you're here, I hope to see you again then. Thank you guys very much. Thank you, Asghar and Farzad. Thank you. And have a great trip to back home, or to Spain rather. The salesman, how do you say it? I was going to prepare myself. Farushande is opening in the United States, in New York specifically, I know, in January 2017.
Yes.
We'll be seeing it then, for sure. And I'll see it in the big movie theater again. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Can you get is it okay to take one quick picture for the pod? For you, the listeners of Filmwax Radio, Zipcar is offering $25 of free driving credit at zipcar.com. Oh, sure, you could call for one type of cab or another, one sort of taxi company to pick you up, but isn't it better to be the driver of the car that and drive yourself to your appointments? To earn $25 of free driving credit, go to joinzipcar.com/filmwaxradio. Again, that's joinzipcar.com/filmwaxradio to earn free driving credit. Michael Rossato-Bennett was on Filmwax Radio some time ago in actually August of 2014, episode number 231, if you want to listen. He's back now to talk about a new project that he is trying to raise money for. Two projects, I should say, both interconnected in the sense that the documentary is about his best friend who is succumbing to ALS, which is Lou Gehrig's disease. At least that's how he's been diagnosed and what they believe he has. Either way, he's in decline, and he has written this guy Brian has written many songs, hundreds in fact, and never got to record them. And so Michael, his friend, the filmmaker, has put together a group of musicians who know and love Brian and want to record a bunch of Brian's music, and then also make a documentary about Brian's back story and about the project and everything else, and about loving life while you can, just like Brian has, grabbing life by the horns and making the most of your life while you have it, however long it is. So while there's a tragic nature to the story, it's also very uplifting and inspiring. Go to Kickstarter when you get a moment and check out the video, check out what exactly the film is about and what they're trying to raise. They're trying to raise $55,000 in the next few weeks, and they're about pushing towards the halfway mark. I'll say they're a solid third of the way there. They really need everybody's help to make these things happen. And so I'm happy to bring this conversation to you right now. And Michael is such a great guy, and what a great guest he is. So here it is, my conversation with filmmaker Michael Rossato-Bennett. you develop a way of speaking about your film which you refine over time as you get to know what it is the film is about, right, yourself.
Right.
So it makes sense.
I mean, this is... we could start if you want.
Yeah, I've already turned it on.
Okay.
I mean, not before, till after I stopped talking about my lecherous behavior.
It's interesting, though, to give oneself over to lechery and to hunger for another being it's a kind of a youthful thing, in that I assume you're, closer to my age than her age.
Yeah,
and
that's a guarantee. I can guarantee.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she, the obsession, the belief that the missing part of yourself or something will fill some hole inside your soul or your hunger even, it sort of diminishes a little bit as, that's sort of a disease of the young.
Michael, I'm waiting for that day. I cannot wait for it. It only seems it gets worse. I don't know. Because to the point where it could possibly not be, it could just be a neurotic response to something.
Right.
It does, so therefore it's not necessarily a natural thing,
right.
And it may not go away like a natural thing. It may just, like a lot of things, as you get older, it can actually get worse, because if it's a neurotic type of behavior, those things can get worse as you get older.
Therein lies the rub. In other words, are you on a path towards clarity? Are you on a path towards, if you get older and you sink into obsession, it means you've made choices, or they've been made for you, and you have sort of accepted that your safety lies in this kind of virtualness, rationalization, objectification, which is, in my mind, the disease of the culture we live within. So it's a kind of and it would be insane to be strong enough to not surrender to the zeitgeist of the time. Literally you have 2 million billion messages a year with billions of dollars spent on them, with the singular message
or,
that you should obsess about,
or youth and beauty and this or that, or this machine or that machine, person. Yeah, it's very true. I fear for not myself, but for my own child. Just being able to be independent enough, minded and smart enough to be aware of it, and then to be able to exert some sort of level of self-control.
And therein is the subject of the film I'm making right now.
Okay.
I'm my best friend. This athlete, this lover of life. Literally people followed him because he just had so much love of life. He said, "Let's go hiking, Michael." And next thing I knew, me and 8 friends and my wife were trekking through the Tennessee mountains for 5...
Blue Ridge Mountains or something?
Yeah. I don't know what it was called. And just going and going and going, because he said that, this would be something we should do. And And this man, like Job, has been struck down. God literally smote him, and said that there is nothing you did wrong. There is no cause. No doctor knows what's happening. I mean, they have names for it, but it doesn't mean anything, their names. They just have a label for this, constellation of symptoms we call ALS, but it doesn't mean anything. There's no hint of a cure in the definition.
Lou Gehrig's disease, right?
Lou Gehrig's disease.
Right, yeah.
And so I'm making a film about someone I deeply love, who's deeply connected to me, and he is dealing with death itself.
It's right. You've this is your neighbor. For those listening, the name your neighbor and best friend lives right across the hall from you. His name is Brian. Name of the film, you're calling it Brian's Songs, which is a nice play on words. And he was also a songwriter. He wrote some 300 songs, you say, in your Kickstarter.
Right, but interestingly, I mean, he played...
When was that? Just refresh
like a couple years ago.
After he was diagnosed?
No,
Okay.
no,
So,
not at all.
Okay, so he was...
And he wasn't a songwriter for...
Historically.
Right.
What did he do? Or what does he do?
I mean, he was a surfer and a skier.
Okay.
Well,
did he have a career?
He came to New York, followed his girlfriend, his high school sweetheart.
Uh-huh.
Married his high school sweetheart, basically. And he followed her to New York City.
Where was he from?
They were
West Coast?
he was from L.A., then North Carolina, then Middle Pennsylvania, where she was from. And landlocked. And he came to New York and, hated it, called it New York shitty. And
even us people that love it call it that. Good. Sorry.
Well, but he came very quickly to fall in love with it, which was really interesting. And he worked in a sporting goods store.
Oh.
And then through some, New York, especially the financial industry, is really a who you know kind of thing. And Brian was such a sweet guy. He made friends with everybody.
Yeah.
Next thing he knew, he was, working on Wall Street. But he was just in the back room,
Yeah.
And he never tried to rise, even though he was incredibly intelligent, because he told me he didn't want to ruin his chances of having a good ski season. So,
the sooner he's an executive or has all of a sudden a managerial role.
Right. And he wanted to live more than earn.
I understand.
But
he made money to live, didn't live to make money. I understand.
Right.
There's a big difference.
And interestingly, in the way that it turned out with this smiting, it's a good thing perhaps that he had that motto, because actually everybody knew he was so smart, and they offered to pay for his law school degree.
Okay.
And,
at the firm.
At the firm, and he turned it down because he didn't want to mess up his skiing or surfing. But had he spent those years in becoming a lawyer and doing that grind, and then in his early 40s to get,
he lost a lot of his that liberation. That
he would have. It would have been tragic, actually.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting thing about this songwriting is one day he just, and I was there with him with my guitar and my ukulele, and I played with him every night, and I would play with him till midnight, and
he would go on writing
and go home and go to bed, right? And then he would stay up till like 4 a.m, and one of the things about you don't know, but like, did that lack of sleep going on for 3-4 years, did that have something to do? Did his passion,
a lot of people, a lot of people are deprived of sleep and don't get ALS. It's a
well, you sort of
no.
Oh no, but I'm just saying you reach out, your mind lashes out like a thrashing animal caught in a cage, looking for answers, and this goes back to, you have the luxury. Let's say you lust after, this perfect woman, or you lust after this perfect car or guitar or something. This luxury of obsessing over a thing, when you're in Brian's shoes, it's a hollow luxury, because you can feel the footsteps of the Grim Reaper outside your door. How can you there is no illusion of that you are going to find deliverance in the possession of anything when you're losing possession of life itself, and life itself is this huge, phenomenal mystery that we literally close ourselves off from every day. To be alive is so much more profound than we give it credit for. I say, like, we're all wealthy beyond belief. We possess each of us possesses this substance, the rarest substance in all the universe called being alive, And my friend is running out of that substance.
I need some holes filled in terms of my knowledge also, so I can also talk and question you in a more knowledgeable way. And Brian was working on Wall Street and started to write these songs. About when did he did that trigger? When did he start to write the songs? Do you remember roughly?
Yeah.
And he was feeling okay at the time.
Said. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, this was
right at the height of his
2011,
peak.
2012,
okay,
2013. I mean, he and I actually went to the Sidewalk Cafe because he'd been writing these songs, and his idea was
doing the open mic kind of thing, or
that was the next step.
Uh-huh.
Brian was going to do open mic for 10 years. He had
10
a plan.
years,
right?
Who does that?
Well, you got to understand, he loved Townes Van Sant. Do you know Townes Van Sant?
Yeah, sure, of course.
And what he always says to me, he says, well, Townes Van Sant in his own way was perfect.
Uh-huh.
His songs, his songwriting was perfect in Brian's estimation. And if you listen to some of his work, I mean...
From what I remember, I have a couple of albums, and I know his history, and kind of a bittersweet story, but he didn't really write hooks too much. He had the one hit he shared with Willie Nelson, Pancho and Lefty. I think other than that, most people don't know, because he was primarily a songwriter, and known as a songwriter.
He did a cover of Dead Flowers.
I will still say that Townes Van Sant is known to songwriters and musicians, but not the broader public much.
Right.
But one thing that I do pick up from him, he was writing all about vibe and feel and emotion, and not really as concerned with hooks and that type of thing. And they were heartfelt,
very heartfelt,
songs.
Very emotional, and he was a tragic character.
Yes.
I mean, he drank himself to an early death, And the ironic thing was when Brian was writing all this music and idolizing Townes Van Sant, it was very obvious, that Brian didn't have the pain that Townes Van Sant had. Townes Van Sant was drinking himself to death.
Yeah.
And that's where that voice came from. And Brian was just a sweet man, writing songs. And, so many, think of when you were growing up reading Bukowski,
Sure. Well, the angst... that was usually in your 20s. You go through that period where you want to take on that.
Right. And then the irony is that in the end, the suffering or the cross, if you will, that Brian is bearing puts to shame anything that Townes Van Sant went through. Mm-hmm. And it even, Townes Van Sant came from a good family. You know, it was... Somehow, it was his choice to drink himself to an early death. And, Brian would trade his left, foot to have, any life.
I understand. So in 2011, you started writing these songs, about 300 by your count?
Yeah. Well, yesterday we found this file that was written in September 1st, 2014. Uh-huh. And it's just this huge GarageBand file, and we were going through it, and we found 4 songs that he wrote in one night. 4 songs. So, he was just searching for something, and it's a real mystery for, literally, you got to understand, this guy would come home from work. He even stopped skiing, and he would start writing these songs, and then, he'd come the weekend, he would, at midnight, he'd go to Paulino's over there on the corner, ordered 2 espressos, come back and stay up till 4 and 5 in the morning.
And go to work.
Oh, well, that was Saturday. Sunday, he would basically do the same, but maybe go to bed at 2. Oh. And the next, and it just like no stop.
It sounds as though he was compelled forward, like he was trying to beat on something. The way you're describing it,
he knew he had no concept that there was a clock.
And then when did the clock, as you say, the smiting? But when did that make itself apparent? When is it apparent that something was really wrong?
Well, he was an athlete, and so he chose to skateboard he had a longboard, and he skateboarded to Wall Street every day. And then he started taking lunch breaks and working out, trying to get strong, like for ski season. And I guess I was around probably 2013, I think.
Very recent.
Yeah, where he just couldn't get any core strength. Like his belly wouldn't get stronger, no matter what. And then all of a sudden his arms started twitching and his legs started twitching. And I mean, like...
spasms of sorts.
Yeah. Small, but uncontrollable and all over. So his body was literally burning itself up, like he was... It just happened, and he continued to write music up until he couldn't hold the guitar anymore.
So, but he was between those 2 points of this body starting to rebel against him, and then, from working out and whatnot, and then things progressed relatively quickly, it sounds like,
pretty
regressed, right? And so he was at some point obviously diagnosed. This was alarming to him, what he experienced working out, right, and what was happening. He knew something was wrong, and he went to a neurologist, I assume, or some.
Well, human nature wants to hold out hope.
Yeah.
And some people said he had ALS, and he thought maybe it was Lyme disease, and he held on for a long time, and it still might not be ALS. It's multifocal neuropathy, maybe.
Right. Okay. But the end result is the same. There's no cure, and it's getting worse, which is the tragedy.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so, where is he at now? Is he living upstairs?
Yeah, he's right above our heads right now. Absolutely, he's probably 8 feet above my head right now.
What does he make of your making this film?
Well, this is an interesting thing because he is thrilled. That he's excited, he came to me a couple of days ago and he said, Mike, I want this film to be a comedy too. I don't want it to be some, thing concentrating on my illness. I want it to be funny. I want us to take the piss out of death.
He doesn't want to be thought of as a victim or as a tragedy.
Right. And so then, he was sort of fading as anyone would. And me and his best friends, of which he has a few, we said, we're going to make an album of these songs that you recorded. And so it's literally a group of 5 guys, and his wife and him, and we're just fighting the clock and trying to make something beautiful. So there's a movie that won Sundance last year called Gleason.
I saw it.
And, I tried to watch it, and I couldn't watch it.
It's a tough one.
I couldn't watch it because, I got halfway through that film, and I'm like, oh, shit, you mean Brian's going to lose his voice? And I just freaked out. I couldn't watch it.
The ability to just swallow and breathe on his own eventually.
Yeah. And so, and I can't even handle those thoughts right now, honestly.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm in big denial myself. So there's a little bit of denial in all of us, too. It's like, we can do something. We can make something beautiful. We can help you, And I'm, I suppose I'm just as full of folly as anyone.
Yeah. Well, you're close to the subject.
But you only get so much life.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter. It's like if you were you're going to die. You could die tomorrow. Well, I hope you have done what you wanted to do. I hope you went and talked to that girl on the subway that you saw and said was beautiful.
Well, I did that, and I'm with. I'm actually very lucky and happy. I'm with somebody I'm in love with, and
I understand that. I'm in love with my wife 20 years.
Yeah.
But that doesn't.
I know.
It
doesn't mean you.
You can look at a woman without saying, that you've betrayed anybody. That's not a betrayal.
No, of course not. But I'm going to have editing now. No,
now you have to edit. Sorry.
She doesn't listen to this podcast.
She never listens to anything I do.
Yeah. You and I met because of my own personal connection to your last film, because I think I shared with you that my mother was pretty far along in dementia. So, and it was after seeing A Live Inside, and I did introduce music at the time. And it did help for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Playing her favorite musicians, which included Louis Armstrong and Roy Orbison, but she was still in this period where she could talk quite a bit and was obsessing over things. So she was. My father would put on Roy Orbison, who she just loved his voice, and she would then want to. She would not stop talking about, can we write to his family and let him know that, I can't remember if it was either that something was wrong with him or that, the music is very beautiful and she wanted him to know. So can we write? And she wouldn't let it go, that kind of thing. So after a while, I was like, don't play it for her. Now she's in a stage 3 years later, right? When did we talk? When were you promoting Alive Inside?
2014.
2 years, 2014. So 2.5 years ago. And now she can barely talk. I mean, and she's much further along and, much more dormant, So I was thinking as I walked over here, maybe it's time to see my dad would be open to, I could tell him I want to do it, but put the headphones on her and put on the old music that she loves, because now she couldn't obsess in that way anymore. But I'm sure, recognize it. Like she recognizes me, where she doesn't know my name. She doesn't know our connection, what our relationship is, but she knows one thing, and she says, I love you. And that's the only word she has, pretty much.
Oh, my goodness.
I love you. She could still say it.
She has I love you.
Yeah.
She has Roy Orbison.
Well, I'm going to try to see.
She has Louis Armstrong.
Yeah, and there's a couple of her top guys, and
what a treasure! Both.
There's a few others.
What a treasure that is, though.
Yeah, Django Reinhardt. She loved his music, and there was just about 4 or 5 go-to guys for her.
What music? That's beautiful musical taste.
Yeah, well, she just grew up. Well, her dad was, my grandfather on my maternal side was a lover of jazz, so like he was buried with a Bix Beiderbecke album in his coffin, and that was that wasn't his choice; it was his children's choice to put it in there. But and so as they grew up with, he was a very collector of jazz music, and he had the reel-to-reel. I still have it in my storage. I have his reel-to-reel, all his reel-to-reels, because he would record all this jazz off TV. I forget how he collected it, but and so my mom grew up with that, and. They lived in New York City. They just had access to great music, and but she had a very versatile. Also, she would just respond emotionally. So she also liked Hank Williams. Mm-hmm. So it was like this. One is she was very all over the place, but she had very specific people. Would she could spot authenticity?
Yeah,
she didn't know the words for it.
You're kind of describing the best people. I mean, Roy Orbison.
Yeah.
Where did he come from? What a god.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad that he got eclipsed by Elvis and that whole crew. But
he got his due. I mean, he had to come back, and there was, legions of people came out to, and he had he was in the Traveling Wilburys.
But that voice was beyond compare. It was operatic.
And just amazing.
Right. And, so music is this phenomenal language, I feel, that...
And it comes around again in your new film, which I thought was...
It's just interesting. I mean, I'm really... I'm obsessed with being alive, with that capacity that we have to either forget that we're alive or to be alive, and the limits of our consciousness to actually recognize our own aliveness. I find that really interesting, and I find these sort of magical languages that we've created, like music. Music is this strange, magical language that is actually much deeper than we could give it credit for. Mm-hmm. We really don't have language for what it does to us. Like your mom, like this vein that goes through her soul, that is this conversation in music. She's she's alive in there. And so, it's interesting, too, with Brian. Like, we're trying to... he never got a chance to make the music that at the level that he wanted to. And so now we're trying to make it happen.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So the Kickstarter, though, is to raise money for... the documentary, or is it to raise money for the production of the
it's for both.
Of the album? Okay.
It's gonna.
How much are you trying to raise?
$55,000.
$55,000.
And right now we are at I think like 18,000.
Okay. And what is your date goal date.
I think we have like 24 days left or something like that.
Sure. We're going to put this up this week, and we're going to, get everybody to kick in.
Good.
Some shekels and.
Yes, and so we're.
It sounds like an exciting project and a very, just inspiring.
Well, that's the thing about me is I'm interested in death, but I'm more interested in life. Mm-hmm. And I can't make a film that doesn't raise your soul. I just can't do it. So, that's where we're going with this. I mean, we're gonna follow the music in his soul rather than, this sort of documentation of decline,
And it's called Brian's Songs. Check out, go to Kickstarter and search
Brian's
Songs.
That's it.
Plural. And check out Michael's very inspiring video and read up, and then consider some contributing to this really cool and utterly worthwhile project.
Here's the thing: most Kickstarters today, you really prepare. Like the new wisdom of Kickstarter is, you spend 6 months developing your audience, and then you execute your Kickstarter, and that is what it takes to make it work. I don't have 6 months. I really don't have 6 months. I don't have 3 months. Mm-hmm. So I'm putting this thing up there, and I probably asked for too much money for today's market. It's not a lot of money for a film, but I think people are kind of broke these days.
Well,
some of them are.
If enough people, even broke ones, contribute a small amount,
that would be
it
so
will add up
wonderful.
to a big amount. So let's try to remain as positive as we can, considering you've already committed to it.
I'm deeply
you have several
committed.
weeks.
I'm deeply committed.
Let's work on it, and I'll do my bit as much as I can.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll come back together and do this again for the next phase, and
wonderful.
And maybe even Brian can
that'd be so cool.
Participate.
I would love that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, and I'm going to post this week. So
thank you for having me.
On the next episode 389, I'm not positive. Sometimes I kind of play with the different shows, but I do have a couple that I'm very excited to play very soon. So depending on how things play over the next couple of days, the plan is to book my conversation with poet Nick Flynn, who is also a writer of memoirs. He has a great book. I'm not sure if you heard of it. It's called Another Bullshit Night in Suck City, which was adapted into a movie called About Flynn, which starred Robert De Niro and Paul Dano. Speaking of which, by the way, I'm finally catching up with Swiss Army Man, which is wild and totally enjoyable. I've been in this kind of jag in the last few weeks, where I'm about ready to start a new job. I'm not going to talk about it right now, but I'll fill you in at some point. And just watching tons of film, like catching up to all the films I want to see finally, because right now I'm not under contract to watch films for Vimeo or to watch films for some screening committee that I'm part of. So I've been liberated to just kind of choose the films I want to see, and I've watched Final Cut, The Birth of a Nation, and I watched so many recent films. I watched Birth of a Nation, and what other recent titles? I watched this new documentary that's coming out shortly called Leonard Cohen, Bird on a Wire, which is from a 1972 tour that Cohen did in Europe and in Israel. And it's going to be coming out shortly, and that was wonderful. I watched, what else did I see? I finally watched a film called A Pigeon Sat on a Branch Reflecting on Existence, which is on Netflix. I just catching up on all sorts of films and documentaries that I have been wanting to see. I saw Trans Pecos by the director Greg Cuedar. I might have mispronounced his name. Pardon me. So just kind of enjoying it. I'm going to watch La La Land probably tonight or tomorrow. So I think I'll be kind of caught up before the Oscars. Anyway, thank you for listening. It's been a joy and a pleasure to do this episode, and thank you for your support of the podcast. A little bit more support would only require you to go to our iTunes page, of course, and leave a star rating or a comment. If you haven't done that yet and you are listening to me say these words, please do take just a couple of moments and do that. Write a nice comment and leave a star rating on our iTunes page. I'm assuming you're a subscriber at this stage. If you don't have an Apple product that you're listening to on, of course, we are on Stitcher. And I've been putting shows on YouTube as well. I have to take the music bits out and some of the other stuff, but it's still there. The interviews and 100% are there. But I'm trying to build up the YouTube following. So FYI. And that's about it, folks. So until next time, this is Adam Schartoff, your host of Filmwax Radio. We're part of the ShowBriz Studios podcast network presented by Rooftop Films. Until next time, take care of yourself and the ones you love.